A famous Chinese saying in depicting the art of combat states, "The hands are like swinging doors. The feet are the real weapons." Capable of generating tremendous force, the legs are the most powerful natural weapons a human being possesses for the defense of his life. Perhaps few men have known this better than Korean Taekwondo master Hwang Lee. Of the 6 primary areas of the foot that may be utilized as weapons, the ball of the foot is perhaps the most well known. Here we see it used in frontal position against the solar plexus. With the foot cocked perpendicular to the lower leg, it may also be used to strike horizontally. The second weapon is the instep. At the point of contact, the toes are held extended, and there is tension felt in the Achilles tendon. The back of the heel is the third weapon. To be used effectively, the foot must be held in this position. The fourth weapon is the inside ankle. While striking, tension should be felt just above the foot's arch. The fifth weapon is the outside ankle, the hardened bone of which is used in striking an opponent. The sixth and final weapon is the back knife edge of the foot, which follows the natural line of support extending down the leg. The straight foot position is formed by outstretching the feet while bending back the toes at the same time. The side foot position, however, is fixed with the feet resting perpendicular to the lower leg, toes curled back and the arches turned inward. Muscles and tendons, when subjected to excess tensile strain, lose their elastic restoring force, much like a rubber band that once overstretched either snaps or loses its resiliency. By swinging the leg up, held straight, muscles are stretched dynamically as opposed to the static elongation produced by other methods. Stretching in an upright position creates a better sense of balance, although for this side stretch, beginners are advised to hold onto a chair. Sustaining the hip back slightly, foot held in the side position allows the leg to swing higher. A state of equilibrium between all the antagonistic muscles which align our skeletal structure creates the balance essential to proper kicking. To develop muscular equilibrium, relax, elevate the knee, and kick out straight, suspending the foot briefly upon full extension. Spring, or bound, is the correct origin of all kicking motion. The greater downward force of the toes against a lesser and opposite force in the ground produces an upward acceleration, the speed of which is determined by elastic strength in the arch of the foot. Without spring, kicks lose both speed and power. Skipping rope will help to develop spring. Circularity not only plays an important role in the motions of the universe, whether it be of suns, moons, planets, or subatomic particles, it also forms the essence of a well-executed kick. Curved motion, unlike linear or straight line motion, which involves sharp changes in direction, requires the least amount of effort, which makes it structurally faster for kicking. Shortening the radius of curvature in any kick, much like cracking a whip, creates greater acceleration, while lengthening the radius imparts greater angular momentum. The pelvis may be divided along three axes. The first, or x-axis, runs horizontally from one hip to the other. Torque, or the mass acceleration around an axis, is increased by thrusting the hip explosively forward. The second, or y-axis, runs vertically through the center of the pelvis. Rotating the hips quickly around this axis generates power. The torso remains fixed, the waist elastic and flexible. The third, or z-axis, runs centrally between both hips from stomach to back. Motion along this axis lends to the kick the added momentum of the reverse half of the body. Hip thrust must be well timed with spring to be effective. The human body may be described as having an imaginary line running through its central core, which we call the gravitational axis or center line. This is the line upon which the rotational forces of the body rest in balance. Force directed toward but short of the center line will have little effect on an opponent's equilibrium and may be deflected by his body rotation. Aiming a strike beyond an opponent's center line becomes a push, which upsets his equilibrium but reduces your force considerably due to improper distancing. The most effective way of striking is to transfer your entire force directly into the center line itself. Along a man's center line, the force of gravity increases when approaching his area of support, in this case, the ground. The point at which all forces, especially the effect of gravity, act upon an object is called the center of gravity, or balance point. In a human being, the center of gravity is located along the center line a few inches below the navel. Striking toward the center line transfers force against the center of gravity. However, a shallow strike shifts it only slightly. A push moves it laterally with little distortion, but a perpendicular strike displaces it violently. Of the 8 basic kicks, the front kick, although appearing simple, is very often performed incorrectly. The weapon utilized is the ball of the foot in the straight position. To kick properly, spring your knee up high. Thrust forward with the hip, extending the foot out straight. Keep your kick side shoulder back while leaning slightly forward at the waist to maintain balance. Do not kick targets beyond the angle of the raised knee or swing the leg up, causing undue pressure upon the knee joint. Notice the kicking foot springs up in an arc, reaching the back of the thigh just prior to hip thrust. Observe the whip-like quality of the entire motion, a characteristic of any proper kick. Against an opponent, kick perpendicularly into his center line. Kicking at any other angle will deflect the force of impact. The round kick is thrown most effectively with the knee leveled at peak elevation, no later than 135 degrees into the kicking arc of curvature.